Welcome back to What's the Good News, the best insider look at the real estate industry as a whole. As always, no gimmicks or courses, only quality information on how to get deals done. We ask questions, solve problems, and as always, we share the good news.
I'm your host, Michael Smith, and with me as always is my co-host, Mr. Dominic Cardarelli, one of the best beards in real estate. However, our guest today may give him a run for his money. Together, Dom and I have over 20 years of real estate experience, and we always like to share the good news. So with that, let's go close some deals.
Before we get started, if you like what you see here on What's the Good News, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to stay up to date with all of our latest videos. Let us know your thoughts and if anything we cover here helps you with any of your own deals.
And today we have on the show Matt Novatnack, who is a landlord, investor, and owner of Nice Guy Realty. He is a part-time real estate investor who finally decided to fire his boss and focus on his own portfolio. In his free time, he helps new investors achieve financial freedom. It's a great thing, buddy. What's the good news, Matt?
Hey, man.
What's the good news?
It looks like I'm in the mountains right now, but I'm not. This is just where I like to be. And real estate allows me to kind of travel around, see these beautiful landscapes and have this passive income where I can kind of just do what I want.
Actually, Mike, I want to start off with, Matt, how long did it take you to grow that beard, man? I've always said that I have the nicest beard in real estate. But I met you today, man, and let me tell you something. Your beard is just making mine look a little soft, I'll be honest.
I might be giving you a run for your money.
You definitely are. You went to the bank and took all my money. I'll be honest with you, man.
You'd be surprised, not that long. Maybe like a year and a half.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's impressive. It's very impressive.
It's quality, dude.
Thank you. It folds into the whole, being financially free, though, too. I don't have to report to a boss or dress up in a suit and go to work and talk to people that are going to judge you how you look. In real estate, you can kind of be your own man, do your own thing. It's a beautiful thing.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I was telling Dom he's got to step his game up.
Yeah, I like to hit mine with the clippers, man. But I think you've inspired me to just make No Shave November just a full year thing for 2023. That's my goal.
Bro, just let it go. Let it go. People love it.
I think I might have to, man. That thing looks incredible.
The funniest thing around Philly, there's a lot of people with beards now. Yeah. And when you see another guy with a beard, you'll catch them checking you out. And it's like, all right, cool, man. You gotta, all right, I see you.
So Matt, where are you originally from? As far as education, any previous endeavors, and how did you end up in Philadelphia?
All right, so I'm from an hour and a half north of Philadelphia, Allentown, which is where I grew up. I'm between Allentown and the Pocono Mountains. I came to Philadelphia for school. I went to engineering at Drexel University, and that's how I ended up in Philly. And that is ultimately how I ended up dealing with real estate in Philadelphia.
Nice. So how did you make the shift into real estate? I mean, what was the one thing you'd say that got you interested in it?
Right. So I love this question. The defining moment for me was in college in the house that we rented with a bunch of buddies. Our landlord, he wasn't great. And he would show up to collect rent in his pajamas and slippers. And I was like, you know what? Fuck this guy. I want to be the guy collecting other people's money wearing my pajamas and slippers. So like that's when it clicked in my head, and I started doing research on the house we lived in, what he paid for it, how much his mortgage was, what we were paying him. And I realized how much money he was making off that one rental. And from that moment forward, it was just save. I was like, this is what I'm going to do.
For sure, dude.
So the question is, Matt, when you pick up your rent, are you in fact in pajamas and slippers now?
I don't do that. I try to respect my tenants a little bit more than that.
Yeah. That's good, man. I like that. So you were going to Drexel, right? You kind of did some diligence, right? What did your first deal look like that you got into, man? Like, how did that kind of step from you actually doing the diligence to actually getting your own property happen? Kind of walk us through that.
So the first deal was 100% a house hack. I realized I lived in a city where my friends are going to be there for a while. If I could just buy a 4-bedroom house, just get my hands on a 4-bedroom house as quick as possible, rent out 3 of the bedrooms for, $500 a month. Mortgage is only $1,000. I'll make money to live in my house. And I think a lot of people get started that way if they realize it, at the right time. And I did. I had roommates for a while. I was able to stack all their money up. And as soon as I had enough to get another investment property, I was in. I was like, this is what I got to do. And just get as many as possible.
Nice. Yeah, it's been a consistent theme. Most of the people that we talk to, man, they get started with house hacking. I mean, that's how I did it myself too, right? Duplex turned into just kind of growing the portfolio from there. It's interesting. It really is.
I think it's a great way. Like I'm trying to work with the younger investors with my business now to help them kind of do the same thing. And I recommend it to everyone. I'm like, look, if you're in your young 20s and you still have a bunch of friends in the city, they're all renting somewhere anyway. Just buy a house, move them in. It'll be the same as it was a couple of years ago when you were in college. And you could just stack that cash, until you want to make the next move. And it gives you a taste for dealing with tenants too and dealing with repairs. A little bit easier environment because they're your friends and the repairs are in a house you already live in. So, and if you can't handle that, then get out.
Yeah, I agree. I think, the area where most people fail is A, vetting their tenants, and then B, handling the maintenance management and just overall just operations of it. And if you're living there, it kind of bridges a lot of those gaps. So, I completely agree with you on a lot of those things, man.
Yeah, it's landlording 101, I like to call it.
Yep.
It's the old testament of there's no such thing as bad tenants. There's only bad screening, right?
Yep. I agree with that.
So, I mean, in your career now, how do you think your strategy differs now? Or if you're still, and I know you're a landlord and you help put transactions together, but do you think that there's any difference in the way that you do business that makes you more successful? Is there anything, whether it's geographically, politically, is it culturally? How do you feel like what you do differs than most?
It goes back a little bit to what you just said about tenant screening, but what I do and what I think I do different than a lot of landlords and a lot of just investors in general is I like to factor in the people side of the equation heavily. I think, being able to deal with the right people and also yourself, like being the best person you can be towards them goes a long way in being a buy and hold investor. There's a lot of sentiment towards landlords that's very ugly. The city doesn't like us. Most tenants don't like us. I don't think it needs to be that way. I think you could acquire assets and then take your time screening, find good people to move in, and then be a good landlord yourself, and everything meshes and everyone's kind of working together towards that common goal. And I think it makes the business dealings a lot easier. It makes those difficult conversations when rent's late a lot easier. But just understanding that you are working with people every day. It's not just a spreadsheet. It's not just numbers. Anyone could run analytics. Anyone could log into Bigger Pockets right now, type in a deal and see if it's going to cash flow or not. But if you can't get along with your tenant, I can guarantee you that deal is not going to be good for you.
Yeah, you're not joking. How many doors do you have in your portfolio now, Matt?
Not that many, honestly. 15 doors.
Okay, that's great. It sounds like there's no issues. I think the relationship and kind of what you said with having those relationships with your tenants make those times where things get difficult because life happens, right? And, you being able to do that, I'm sure that's helped dramatically with you having a successful portfolio. So, and from my experience, man, you don't need to have a lot of doors to be able to make, good money to be able to not only sustain your life, but also allow you to afford to be able to go out and pursue your passions outside of real estate.
Yep. It really doesn't take that much. As long as you're not over leveraged and you're cash flowing on every door and you're maintaining, you're minimizing your vacancy rate, comes back to the people side. You get tenants that want to stay with you as a landlord. Money's coming in, allows you to kind of live how you want to live. Like for me, it's the outdoors, kind of trying to portray that with my background, which is not a very expensive lifestyle to be able to go hunting and fishing whenever I want, go skiing, snowboarding, and don't get me wrong, I'm still working, still picking up the phone all the time, still doing deals, still wholesaling, still helping other people buy properties, but on my own terms. So on my own time, really.
It's great, man. Did you have any challenges when COVID happened, kind of the world got flipped upside down, and I've heard some horror stories from some people that had a lot of doors in their portfolio to where, they were almost freaking ready to throw in the towel. How was your experience during COVID with your tenants that you had?
So I think the COVID experience was bad overall for everybody. I do think I was very successful through COVID because of the relationship I had with a lot of my tenants. Yeah. Also, I wasn't really over leveraged about half of my portfolio is owned free and clear, right? So I had good tenants that were keeping up with their rent, or at least keeping me informed with what's going on, right? I had people that were willing to work with me to get the phase 1, 2, 3, and phase 4 money from the city of Philadelphia, if you're familiar. Where I would go to their house, sit down at their coffee table, set up a Wi-Fi hotspot, help them get through the application process. Ultimately, it was so I would get paid, but it also helped them out in a time of need, right? And that went a long way. Some tenants did screw me over. I did miss out on quite a bit of money because of COVID, but I was able to, hang on to all my units and sustain my business really by having those rock solid tenants and those properties that were just like an asset that I can count on.
That's fantastic, man. That's interesting. You actually went and helped your tenants fill out the application. That's awesome, man. Hat off to you, bro. That's like really taking the interest in your business, and it's what it takes to be successful in this industry.
It does. And hey, if there's money on the table, I want to go get that money. I'm not going to lie to you. It is about making money, but it also was well received by the tenants. They appreciated it. So
yeah, absolutely. So in your business today, right? It sounds like you have your hands in a bunch of different tranches. What would you say the biggest challenges that you're facing are?
That's a tough one for me because I've actually done as well as I expected. I haven't set expectations that weren't really met yet in my real estate career. I'm not trying to hit home runs. I'm playing the long game, just slowly acquiring properties that cash flow, making smart decisions. The biggest challenges, I think, sometimes is getting other people on board with that concept. People say, I want to be a real estate investor. They read an article or they see a video on Facebook, YouTube, whatever it is, that says, I acquired 112 units in 6 months, and they want to do that. It's like, okay, well, there's a reason why that guy has 2 million views on YouTube, because no one else is doing that. Like, if you really want to get into the buy and hold investing, it's just running that marathon, slow and steady, making smart decisions, taking care of your people. And you probably won't have too many windfalls if you do that.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Where would you say kind of your end goal is in this game? You have 15 doors now. What do you think you're looking to do in terms of scale, and kind of where do you think the end of the road is for you?
There is no end of the road. My goal is 5 doors a year from here on out. I probably won't hit that most years, but when I miss that goal and only got 3, I got 3 more than the next guy, and I'm happy with that. And just keep growing at that pace. And yeah, hopefully end up with 80. I would say it would be a good goal.
Hell yeah, man. 80 doors.
That's a magic number, buddy. Do you have any crazy land? Because I have 1 million, but I hate the war story. But the good news is that a lot of people don't really know the dark side or the more challenging side. Do you have any crazy landlord stories, whether it be a crazy tenant or, an exhausting eviction or anything else that you can share?
Yeah, I mean, I know where you invest, Mike, and you kind of know where I invest. I've seen so many crazy things that it's not even crazy anymore. It's shifted from crazy to normal at this point.
It's just
regular landlord in Philly, right? The craziest and worst situation I had to deal with was it was a tenant that I inherited. It was a good buy on the property. The tenant was there. They were kind of messed up, but they were drug addicts, right? They were doing, I don't know what they were doing. It wasn't weed. It was like something that made you fast and crazy. So sometimes I go over there and I'd open the door and the dude, the boyfriend, would be standing there naked in the living room, yelling at his girlfriend, throwing stuff at her while she's throwing stuff at me. And I'd shut the door and leave. And I wouldn't see them for 6 months. And the crazy part was, after 6 months, they would have the money. They'd be like, here's the rent for the past 6 months. I'm like, I guess I'll just deal with this, right? And then I would get calls from the neighbors, because I did, again, with the people side of things, I made friends with the neighbors, gave them my number in case there's any problems. I get calls all the time yo, this dude's out here at 3 o'clock in the morning, butt ass naked, breaking in the front window. And I'm like, look, you got to call the cops at this point. I can't be a social worker and a policeman and a landlord. That house was a crazy house, a party house. I got him out recently, so that was good.
But he was just hanging with his bird out all day. That's just.
I guess that was his thing,
Well, welcome to the city of Philadelphia, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it never amazes me, dude. There's just it's always something. But It's a crazy thing because they do pay the rent, and it's like you want to help, but at the same time you also have to take consideration, like if you start stirring this pot up, then you know that it's going to be a while before you start getting paid again.
Yeah.
So it's a blessing and a curse for sure.
It's also the interesting too is like, the problems always come when you inherit tenants. Even from my personal experience, same with Mike, like, even in some of the deals that we're doing today, like we auto have defaulted on our agreement. Property must be delivered vacant because it's just crazy. Some of the things that you just have to deal with when you're taking on someone else's problem, right?
Yes. It is. And you know what? I tell myself that every time, and then I still go buy one with a tenant in it. Because sometimes those deals are so good. Like,
yeah,
the squatter specials and the bad tenants. Like, yep. And I've been very successful doing that. There's only a couple of occasions where I really wasn't successful. But again, just sitting them down, laying out the expectations. Like, I'm the new landlord. These are the rules. This is how it's going to work. Otherwise, here's your eviction notice. I already printed it out. But every time I do it, I'm like, well, how did I do this again? And then, once it's all stabilized, though, usually you end up with a pretty good deal. I'm not recommending it. I would never recommend it to a new investor.
Yeah, it's funny, Matt. One of my duplexes that I picked up, man, I inherited this old woman that lived in this house for like 23 years, right? And when I had the lead cert guy come out to do my inspection so I can get my renter's license and all that stuff, the guy used to live in the property, and he was like, that old lady still lives here? Oh, man. And all of the things that he was telling me were all of the things that the current tenant that was living downstairs was complaining about. It was so funny, man. She was just like this woman that haunted this property for years. It was just so funny, man.
You get those.
But hey, she sent me 3 months worth of checks every quarter. So, I couldn't really complain, Yeah. So some of the things that you deal with. So, in terms of like success stories, right? We talked about kind of the challenges, some of the bad, landlord things you've gone through. Tell us about just like one of your greatest success stories that you've had in your experience doing real estate. Like home run deals, just solid cash flow. You saw like 100% appreciation, something crazy.
My biggest success story, my best property was like the first BRR I did. And it was a challenge because it was during COVID. So I acquired the property pretty cheap right before we went into lockdown. And then you guys know what happened then. It was like, no one knew what to do. I couldn't get workers to come out. I couldn't get people to come out and even inspect the property or give me estimates. And it ended up extending the rehab over like a year and a couple months. But I was able to just work the network, get it done under the table, cash. Like these people weren't even supposed to be there. Like I wasn't even supposed to be showing the apartments to prospective tenants. So it was like you had to get creative, like taking pictures, explaining that to them. I even got referrals from past tenants, like about how I was the landlord and how I upkept the property to send these people that were interested in moving in. So we didn't have to like make that contact and getting that building filled, just with the whole new environment of not being able to even shake a person's hand and then getting it refinanced and it cash flows like crazy was like a huge success because I saw landlords just get handcuffed during that time period where they couldn't get anything done. And I think it was probably because they weren't willing to get creative and they weren't willing to just work their network,
So as far as your strategy, I mean, we always like to talk about, what is a perfect deal for you? And we call this like name your cap or, what do you think your minimum cap rate is or your return on investment or IRR? What does a perfect deal look like for you?
So those are things that I factor in, but there were some of the metrics like you mentioned are the last things that I factor in. So my company's motto is nice homes for nice people. And every decision I make, I try to tie back to that mission statement, really. So what I mean by that is I look for properties that I could make very nice for the area that they're in. I look for properties that are near transportation because I think that good tenants typically have good jobs. And a lot of times that requires, hopping on the subway or hopping on the train into center city or, out to Norristown or out to Lansdale, wherever they work. So again, good people, meaning good blocks, good properties, meaning solid buildings that have space that makes sense for people, not like little cut up studios. transportation. And then once I find something that fits all those three, then I start looking at, mostly cash on cash. If my cash on cash could be better than what the stock market's doing, and I consider that, 10% historically, cash on cash is 10%, I'm good to go. That's the biggest number. Everything else, appreciation, that's great. Can't count on it. If it happens, awesome. Debt pay down you can count on that, and it's great. And then the tax advantage is our bonus. So if it's 10% cash on cash, I consider it a no-brainer deal. I don't really care about cap rate.
Understood.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's almost like keep it simple, stupid, right? It's like, you just kind of just focus on, the core essentials of what it takes. And as long as you do your vetting process and your return is decent and you have solid tenants, sounds like that's kind of how you run your business. And I love that, man. It's just a very, very simple strategy. Yeah,
to simplify what I just spoke way too long about, you find an asset that's going to be reliable, right?
Yeah.
Then worry about the metrics, because you could find a 25 cap rate in the middle of K&A. But if you're only collecting rent 5 out of the 12 months a year, and then once a year you got to go in and do a $10,000 turnover, that cap rate doesn't mean shit.
Yep.
Right. A lot of people don't factor in that rent loss, which is, I always factor it in now. I factor it in like 15% at this point.
Yeah.
Given that that's one of my main markets. But you touched on it earlier, but if you didn't do real estate, what would you be doing as far as, because you have the engineering degree, but also some of your other passions. I know you like to go snowboarding, you like outdoor stuff, but is there anything else that you'd like to do or passionate about?
Yeah, if I could, and it's probably what I'll do after real estate, is I would start a fishing charter business.
Sweet.
Whether it's on land or on the sea. Like, I think it'll be sick to have a fleet of boats and, take people out, make sure they have a great day and get paid for it and have fun while you're doing it.
Well, hey, man, I look forward to it. I'll definitely rock and roll with you.
You get a free.
Yeah, we're
you guys are coming.
Drink some beers. For sure. It's interesting too. Most people that own those nice boats, they don't really use them that much. They rent them out because there's such a good business with that.
Yeah, they do. And I thought about this plenty of times before. I would like to get a fleet of boats and even like set up lease option agreements with owner operators. So like there's so many guys on the East Coast that their dream is to be like a fishing captain, but you can't buy a $100,000 boat. But if I could do a lease option with them where they can get in, if they're successful and they could pay their lease and then buy the boat at the end, great. If they're not successful and they need to get out, they can get out. And then I could just rinse and repeat with that asset.
Yeah, I love that, man. That's fantastic. So out of all of the people that you've spoke to, all of the mentors that you've had, all of the podcasts, books, stuff that you've read, who would you say is the most influential person for you in terms of your real estate career?
This is a funny answer. So the most influential guy that really set me off was the real estate agent that helped me buy my first house. So when we stayed friends we still are friends, but throughout that process, he mentioned that his goal was to buy one, cash flowing property a year to add to his portfolio. And I was a 23-year-old kid. I thought I was the smartest guy in the world because I just graduated from Drexel, chemical engineering. I was like, I'm smarter than this guy. I'm going to try and get 3 a year. And I made that my goal. And, some years I hit 2, some years 1.5. But just that desire to be better for myself and to know what someone else's goal was and to think, I could probably do better than this guy was really what catapulted me into just consistently buying like these rentals.
Yeah, it was like an epiphany or like an aha moment where you're like, okay, this guy has something here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it was. I was like, well, if this person could do it, I could do it and maybe do it better. And that's what I shot for. And, it's worked out.
It's fantastic. So almost kind of like, when you're the smartest person in a room, you're in the wrong room. It's kind of like that realization that you had. It's like, oh, if this guy can do it, I could definitely do it. I love that. You also said that, in the beginning, you had fired your boss. I love that statement, man. I love that statement. When you had gotten your chemical engineering degree, what were you planning to do with that?
All right. So with the chemical engineering degree, I wanted to work in industries that help the environment, right? Which I did. I worked for a company that made emission control systems for cars and diesel trucks, right? So, we're helping out with air quality and whatnot. After that, I went and I managed a recycling company in Philadelphia for about 2.5 years. which was a great experience as far as managing people, especially people of all walks of life, right? And that's what I was going to do. I was buying up real estate on the side. Someone came to me and was like, "Hey, would you help me with my real estate business? I'm getting big. I'm getting pretty big pretty fast. I need help." So I thought about it long and hard, and I jumped out of manufacturing into the real estate. Did that for about a year. Picked up a lot of good, just knowledge and industry experience by being in the mix of things, right? And at a certain point, I was doing my taxes, and I was like, I'm making enough money in my rentals where I could work for myself and go do all the things I love to do and not have to, punch a time clock or request vacation. And so that's when I fired my boss, on good terms, right? But just didn't have to show up every day and can kind of do my own thing and really try to build my own business. Yeah,
it's fantastic, man. Working for yourself is a great experience. Like being able to just walk upstairs, at 2 p.m. and make yourself a sandwich and just, take as long of a lunch as you want. Just those simple luxuries that have really just resonated with me, and why, me and Mike work for ourselves. And I'm sure that's, kind of the same thing from you. If you have something you want to do, you just go do it. You don't have to ask for permission. It's just a very liberating feeling.
It is. It's very freeing. You can't see him. My dog's sitting next to me right now. We're hanging out, working from home.
What kind of dog do you have?
Doberman Pinscher.
Nice.
Yeah, big scary baby.
Nice. Yeah, those dogs are sweethearts. They look intimidating, but they're absolutely sweethearts.
Yep.
They are.
So Matt, how do you see the market evolving over the next 5 to 10 years? I know we don't have a crystal ball, but based on your experience, and I know that I got in right as the crash happened, so I kind of saw it. I really wasn't in the game deep enough to be able to kind of speak to it, but we got all the advantages of it. So now that we're starting to see a slowdown, it's not a crash or anything like that, but it is a little slower. Well, where do you think with the next 5 to 10 years you're going to be, and how are you going to change, or what do you think it looks like?
So this is going to be a multi-part answer, right? Nationally, the nation as a whole, I see a decline over the next 5 years. I could see real estate declining, or at least being flat with a higher barrier to entry, right? Maybe higher interest rates, sellers expecting more of the buyers, and for different reasons, and that's nationally on a whole. I think every smaller market is going to be different. I know Philadelphia pretty well. I think if nationally real estate goes down, it helps the city of Philadelphia. Right now, it's it's arguably the most affordable big city in the country. I think
it's also the poorest. So
it is the poorest city in the country. So the opportunity, Mike, yes, is there's plenty of cheap real estate here. And because of where we're positioned in the Northeast, where everything is so expensive, Boston is incredibly expensive. New York City, hour and a half train ride away. Real estate prices there are tenfold what Philly is. Washington, D.C., I think it's another hour and a half train ride. Real estate prices there are insane. Philly's right in the middle. And right now, and for the next 5 to 10 years, no one's really working 9 to 5 in an office. If you have an office job, you either have a modified work schedule or you go work from home. So if you could work from home and you want to live in a city, why would you stay in New York City where you're paying, $4,000 for a 1-bedroom apartment when you could buy a house in Philly for half that, and you have a yard, a front porch, 4 beds, 2 baths? It doesn't make any sense that Philly is so cheap where it's positioned, especially with the current working conditions. A lot of investors that I talk to are coming from New York City, and they want to buy in Philly because they have to go to New York maybe 2 days a week for meetings, right? They could live here for half the price and take the train to New York and take the train back, and they're perfectly fine with that. And the train ride from Philly to New York City is just as long as a subway ride from Brooklyn into parts of Manhattan. So to them, it's a no-brainer. So if the entire Northeast starts to go down, I actually can see it lifting Philly up a little bit. I don't think Philly will be nearly as affected as the rest of the Northeast.
Yeah, there's also just so much, it was depreciated to begin with. So it's got a lot of room. Got a lot of room for growth.
It can't go down much further.
Right. I think it's already hit the bottom of the barrel. And also, similarly is Baltimore. I'd also throw Baltimore in there as another possible market that, is going to actually, if the market goes down, that one should go up.
Matt, do you see yourself staying like predominantly in the Philadelphia area in terms of your rental portfolio, or are you looking at any other markets in the country? What are your thoughts?
Right now, my plans are to stay in the Philadelphia area. Taxes are low, properties are cheap, cap rates are high. As I get old, and I'm relatively young, so I don't mind dealing with the headaches with bad tenants, like crappy neighborhoods, fixing up dumps. As I get older and I want to spend less time worrying about those things, I will probably move to like lower cap, more affluent areas, just to really truly be retired and not have to worry about the properties.
Yeah, for sure. Are you using a management company right now to handle the majority of your things, or are you doing that yourself?
50-50. Right. So I do have a bunch of properties with a management company, and I have a bunch of properties I manage on my own. There's different reasons for that. It helped me a lot when I was working 9 to 5 to have a management company. There was properties where I'm looking at them and I'm like, I'll buy it because I know I have a management company in place that can handle, most of the day to day with that property. If I didn't have them, I wouldn't have grown as quickly as I did, or gotten as many as I've gotten.
Yeah, for sure. So, is there anything that you would like to mention or share with any of our listeners in terms of, resources, books, articles, websites, networking groups that you've used that have helped you, that you would definitely recommend to someone looking to get started or is already in real estate?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the investor community is huge and mostly willing to help, especially if you're my clientele, which would be a younger, newer investor. Everyone wants to help out a 23-year-old kid who's like, hey, I want to buy my first investment property, right? Utilize like the online community. Bigger Pockets is great. Facebook is also great. Joining groups, similar areas, interests, different professions, and like working those online networks. But then again, work like the people side of things too, the physical network, like go to meetups, go to events. I've sat through plenty of presentations where I'm like, I know everything that they're telling me right now, but at the end of it, mingle with everyone, figure out who the other investors are, figure out what they're looking for, where they buy, how and why they buy, because you're going to come across deals where you can send it their way. And you might not talk to them for a year, send it their way, because they see something, they know what you like, they'll send it your way. And it comes back full circle almost every time. I think working both networks, the online network and the physical in-person network is key for anyone starting out or anyone who's even already great at investing in real estate.
It's funny you say that, because all of the people that we've talked to that are successful in real estate, they all pretty much say the same thing. This is the meetups, the networking. It's like there's these very simple things to do that ensure success in the industry. And it really is, the power is in the network. It's nice to see that consistency in the answers, for sure.
Like, well, for example, if I found a land deal that I thought was good and I didn't know how to analyze it, I would probably call up your last guest, Samantha, and be like, hey, how would you look at this deal? Like, this is your area of expertise. I know that because we've met, we've talked, right? And get her opinion. She's not going to say, beat it. She's going to look at it, give me an idea, and we could, work it out and maybe do a deal together, or maybe I just learned something new. But knowing who the players are in what areas, I think is key.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the biggest takeaway from what you just said, and even though it sounds kind of redundant, but when you network, make sure that you are networking, because a lot of people, they go to these events, they take in the information, and then they leave.
Yeah.
Right? That's not necessarily why you came there, right? You came there to network. So you should spend most of your time trying to meet as many people as possible, right?
Yep.
That's what, maybe there's a good speaker. Maybe you'll get some tidbits how, help your business or some specific aspect of it. But going to a network meeting and not networking is absolutely ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense.
Right. No, absolutely.
And finally, our last question. I think I know the answer to it, but if you won the lottery for 5 million or 100 million, whatever, the number's not really relevant. But what would you spend it on if you couldn't spend it on real estate?
So I'm glad you sent me this question. I had to think about it. This is a tough question. I think whatever that lottery amount that I won was, I would split it in half, right? And with half of it, I would buy investments, but like physical investments, like maybe like gold, I would probably employ someone who knows a lot more about crypto than myself and say, hey, where should I allocate this in the crypto market? And then the other half, I would go to sort of running a business. Like we talked about the charter fishing. I don't think that's a business that's going to make a lot of money. I think it would be smart to buy a bunch of tractor trailer trucks and offer those out to owner operators on a lease option. Because especially with the way we're going with online shopping and just the shipping issues that we're having them now, there's not enough trucks on the road to get products to people when they need them. I think that market could really blow up. And if you could provide the asset, which is a truck, right, to facilitate that, there's a lot of people that would gobble that up, and you could probably run a pretty solid like truck leasing and even selling business.
Yeah.
Nice. That's what fun stuff would you buy? Any toys? Any
fun
quads,
stuff?
RVs? Yeah, man. You're not spending it all on business.
All right, well,
It's up with a lottery,
Yeah, I'd have the best fishing boat down in Sandy Hook. I'll tell you that.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm pretty simple. Like I'd probably get a fucking 1950s Ford Bronco, get that thing stripped, redone, all, modern, like braking system, modern dash and all that, and just drive that thing around and just, I don't know, just live life.
Like that, man. What's your favorite fishing trip you've been on? Where do you like to go most of the time?
My family, every year we spend a week in Canada. It's in the southern part of Ontario. It's very remote. It's a cabin. You barely get cell service. You don't get Wi-Fi. You get to just spend a week, shut off from the rest of the world. Go, relax by the lake, go out fishing, cook our own meals, just really get back to like where I feel we should be, and not in this hustle and bustle every day where your phone is like, people can have access to you 24/7 by sending you a text or giving you a call. Like, I think getting away from that is important. So anywhere you can do that, whether if you're fishing, hiking, camping, like I think that's the best place to be.
Yeah, I agree, man. Being in real estate, it's like one of those things where your phone is just constantly going off. Anyone that knows me knows that if I'm hanging out with you, it doesn't matter what time of the day it is, my phone's ringing. Someone's calling me, something's happening. So I love that, man. Kind of being able to unplug. That's just so important.
No, it is.
Really is, man. Well, Matt, we appreciate you stopping by today, man. I had a blast talking to you. It sounds like you're out here doing your thing, grinding it. I love that. So as always, man, we appreciate you stopping in and sharing the good news with us as always, man.
One thing I want to tell like newer, younger investors, or even people that are hesitant to be first-time home buyers, is don't listen to the people in your life that are negative, right? You're always going to have an uncle that got screwed over by his tenant. You're always going to meet some old guy at the pub who had a hard time getting into real estate investing and lost a bunch of money. They're very vocal, those people, right? They're going to just tell you how they failed and how hard it was and how you shouldn't do it. The successful guy who has 100 properties, he's never going to tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, guess what? I have 100 rental properties and I don't have to go to work. Because why would he tell you that, right? So I think for every negative influence that's out there blabbing about how they failed, there's probably 10 more people that are very successful that you just don't know they exist because they're not vocal. So for the new guys and the people that are hesitant to get into the business, don't listen to those people. Do not listen to those people. Seek out the positive and talk to them. That's the best way to get started. And if you need help with that, you could always contact me at niceguyrealty.com. Like I do have a great network in Philadelphia. I know a lot of people that could help. A lot of people that could help with everything from lending, to buying, selling. Even if you're looking for a rental, like we can get it done for you in a positive way, or at least set you on the right track. So,
love that, man.
Well, all right, bro. I appreciate you for spending the time with us, dude.
Of course. Thanks for having me, guys. It was great talking. I'm looking forward to seeing the final cut.
Rock and roll, brother.
All right. Peace.